Anglo University, Government First Aid College, and PU Center, Shankar Narayana. I am Mohini. Today, let us discuss in standard costing variance analysis. Variance means the deviation of the actual cost of the production and with the standard cost are established. Now let us see what are the different types of variance. Variance can be established under material, labor, overheads and sales. There are four distinct groups of variances that arise in standard costing. They are material variance, labor variance, overhead variance and sales variance. Now let us study in detail all the variances. Material variances means direct material price variance. It is the difference between the actual cost of direct material and the standard cost of quantity purchased or consumed during the production process. So how to ascertain direct material price variance? So the formula is actual quantity into actual price minus actual quantity into standard price. Or it also can be said like this: actual cost minus standard cost, where actual quantity is the quantity purchased during a period if the variance is calculated at the time of material purchase. Actual quantity is the quantity consumed during the period if the variance is calculated at the time of material consumption. So we can classify the material variance under six heads. We can subdivide them like this: material cost variance, material price variance, material usage or quantity variance, material mix variance, material yield variance, material revision variance. Now let us study all these one by one in detail. So what is material cost variance? It is the difference between the standard cost of materials allowed as, as it is there in the standard letter for the output achieved and the actual cost of materials used. It may be expressed like this: material cost variance equal to standard cost of materials for actual output minus actual cost of materials used, or material cost variance equal to material price variance plus material usage or quantity variance, or it also can be explained like this: material cost variance equal to material price variance plus material mix variance plus material yield variance. So in order to calculate material cost variance, it is necessary to know what are the standard quantity of materials which should have been required as per the standard site to produce actual outputs. So the standard quantity of material is actual output into standard quantity of materials per unit. So it is to be noted that in order to find out standard quantity of materials specified, actual output is to be multiplied by standard quantity of materials per unit. Next, what we require is standard price per unit of materials, actual quantity of materials used, and the actual price per unit of materials. Now let us see second material variance is material price variance. It is the portion of the material cost variance which is due to the difference between the standard cost of materials used for the output achieved and the actual cost of material used. In other words, it can be expressed like this: material price variance equal to actual usage, that is standard unit actual usage into the difference between the standard unit price and the actual unit price. Here, actual usage means actual quantity of materials in terms of units used. The standard unit price means standard price of materials per unit. Then actual unit price means actual price of materials per unit. Then the third one is material usage or quantity variance, MQV. It is the portion of the material cost variance which is due to the difference between the standard quantity of materials specified for the actual output and the actual quantity of materials used. It can be expressed like this. Material usage variance equal to standard price per unit multiplied by the difference between the standard quantity and the actual quantity. It is to be noted that standard quantity means quantity of materials which should have been used for the actual output achieved as per the standard determined. Now let us go to the next material variance is material mix variance. What is the proportion of different materials used? In that also we can observe the variation or deviation. So how it affects the material cost variance? It is that portion material mix variance is the that portion of the material usage variance which is due to the difference between standard and the actual composition of a mixture. In other words, this variance arises because the ratio of materials being changed from the standard ratio set. It is calculated as the difference between the standard price of standard mix and the standard price of actual mix. In case of material mix variance, two situations may arise. One may be when actual weight of mix and the standard weight of mix do not differ. In such a case, material mix variance is calculated with the help of the this formula. Standard unit cost into or multiplied by the difference between the standard quantity and the actual quantity, or standard cost of standard mix minus standard cost of actual mix. If the standard is revised due to shortage of particular type of material, the material may be due to some unseen circumstances or some contingencies or any other reason. The material mix variance is calculated like this: standard unit cost multiplied with the difference between the revised standard quantity and the actual quantity. Or it also can be calculated like this: standard cost of revised standard mix minus standard cost of actual mix. Now let us see what is material yield or material sub-usage variance. Yield means the output what we get. In the output what we get also there may be deviation due to normal and abnormal losses. Normal loss cannot be controlled; these are natural in process. But abnormal loss, the abnormal loss is under the control. We can control if we take due care. If we neglect it, the abnormal loss will be more. So, due to abnormal losses, the material yield variance, abnormal loss control, high control is there, yield will be more or output will be more. The control is here very poor, then losses will be more. Then how we have to, what is that then? What is material yield variance? Let us see. It is that portion of the material usage variance which is due to the difference between the standard yield specified and the actual yield obtained. This variance between the this variance measures the abnormal loss or saving of materials. This variance is particularly important in case of process industries where certain percentage of loss of material is inevitable. Let us see, if the actual loss of materials differs from the standard loss of materials, yield variance will arise. Yield variance is also known as scrap variance. This loss may result in the the below two situations. When standard actual mix do not differ, in such a case, yield variance is calculated with the help of the this formula. Yield variance equal to standard rate multiplied with the difference between the actual yield and the standard yield, where standard rate means standard cost of standard mix divided by net standard output, that is gross output minus standard loss. The second situation is when actual mix differs from standard mix. In such a case, formula for the calculation of yield variance is almost the same, but since the weight of actual mix differs from that of the standard mix, a revised standard mix is to be calculated to adjust the standard mix in proportion to the actual mix, and the standard rate is to be calculated from the revised standard mix. It can be calculated here like this. Standard rate equal to standard cost of revised standard mix divided by net standard output. So the formula for yield variance in such a case is yield variance equal to standard rate multiplied with the difference between the actual yield and the revised standard yield. The last one is material revision variance. Once the standard is set for a period, so it is to be for the particular period. So here for a year or for 6 months, depends on the company or the business. But sometimes due to seriousness of the situation, such as a sudden rise in the prices of materials or due to the short supply of particular materials, there may be need of revision of standard to cope with the situation. Standards are revised with the hope that when the current difficulties are over, original standard will continue to operate. Thus, revision of standards may be for a short period, for a particular period only. Material revision variance is calculated like this. Material revision variance equal to standard price multiplied with the difference between the standard usage and the revised standard usage. For calculation of material usage variance, revised standard usage or quantity will be taken instead of standard usage or quantity. So, material usage variance will be calculated like this. Material usage variance equal to standard price multiplied with the difference between revised standard usage and the actual usage. In case there is material revision variance, material cost variance will be verified. It is like this. Material cost variance equal to material revision variance plus price variance plus usage variance.